Good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to welcome you to our Committee of Adjustments meeting for October, and glad to see everyone here. We have a number of guests, and I welcome each and every one of you, and thank you for making the time to come. We do live stream the meeting on our YouTube channel, and the recording is available after the meeting. Because meetings are accessible to the public in all of these ways, video or audio recording by members of the public is not permitted in the council chambers. This is to ensure that all attendees and those who come to make a deputation feel at ease. So thanks for your cooperation with this. I'll call this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to order. As required under the Planning Act, a public meeting is being held prior to the committee making a decision on the applications that are in front of us today. I'll introduce at this time the committee members. We have here in person myself, Acting Chair today, Steve Strangway, Betty Archer, Gerald Erickson, Eric Finn. Councillor Yeo, I understand, is on Zoom, or going to be joining us on Zoom. Staff in person, Leah Berry, Director of Development Services, Amij Shahid, Planner 2, Catherine Evans, Senior Planner, Mark LaHaye, Secretary Treasurer, Charlotte Crawford, Recording Secretary, and Matthew McKinnon, Supervisor of Plans Review and Inspections. So to each of our staff, a welcome today, and once again, as Mr. Robertson often mentions, we appreciate how much you do to get ready for these meetings. I'm going to call for the approval of the agenda, and before I do, I'm going to ask Mr. Shahid to bring us up to date on one of the applications. Mr. Shahid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm calling for recommending for the deferral of item 3.1.5 of the agenda, which is the minor variance application for 26 Hummingbird Lane. The reason being, after the circulation of the application and the writing of the report, new information was brought forward and comments of concern were received from both the Supervisor of Part 8 Sewage Systems and the Kawartha Region Conservation Authority. So I recommend that the application be deferred to the next committee hearing in order for the applicant to solidify their proposal and work with our agencies and internal departments to ensure they're able to support the application.
Thank you for that, Mr. Shahid. Committee members, are there any questions about that? So could I have a motion to approve the agenda with that one application being deferred? Mr. Finn, Ms. Archer, all in favor? I don't see Councillor Yeo yet on Zoom. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. There you are, sir. Welcome this afternoon.
All right.
Approval of the agenda. Could we have your vote there, Councillor Yeo?
Yeah, in favor of the deferral.
Thank you. Are there any pecuniary interests from community members? Could I have approval for the minutes of the September meeting? Those were circulated with the agendas, of course. Ms. Archer and Mr. Erickson. In favor, Councillor Yeo? Ms. Archer?
In favor.
Mr. Erickson? Mr. Finn, thank you. The committee will hear comments, gather information, and may ask questions to clarify statements made. The committee may ask and answer questions or redirect questions to the appropriate person. Please note that any information or comments given to the committee during this meeting is considered evidence. We will first hear from staff, then the applicant or his or her agent. We will then hear from the person in support of or from those who have questions, concerns, or are opposed to the application. Finally, the applicant or his or her agent will have an opportunity to respond to any of the statements made to the committee. Everyone who speaks to the committee is required to provide their name and mailing address for the public record. The first application we're going to hear is file number D20-2024-087 and D03-2024-002. And Ms. Evans, you're going to be presenting the first one. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we proceed, I will bring something to the attention of the committee. So after the public circulation and the writing of the report, it was identified that the setback between the driveway on the retained lot and the proposed interior lot line is deficient. So section 5.12J6 of the zoning bylaw provides that no driveway shall be closer than 0.6 meters to a side lot line. And the setback between the driveway on the retained lot and the proposed interior lot line is 0.5 meters. So the sketch that was circulated to the public, as well as the sketch that was included in the report, labels this 0.5 meter setback. And the deficient setback would be between the retained lot and the proposed severed lot. So it would not impact neighboring property owners, as it would be between these two lots. And this deficiency in the driveway setback would allow for the proposed severed lot to have as much frontage as possible. So the updated list of reliefs has been provided to the committee in hard copy. I also did email a copy to Councillor Yeo. I feel it's appropriate to add this relief, and I have discussed the matter with the Director of Development Services, who agrees as well. However, I will leave this with the committee to discuss and determine if the application should proceed today or if it should be deferred to a subsequent meeting.
Committee, any thoughts, comments?
I would suggest that we carry on. 0.1 of a meter for a driveway is fine by me. Thank you.
That makes sense. Any other comments from committee? Therefore, Ms. Evans, we'll continue with it. The committee is comfortable with what you brought forward.
Thank you. The subject property is designated residential under the Town of Lindsay Secondary Plan and is zoned Residential 2 under the Town of Lindsay Zoning Bylaw 2000-75. The property is within an established residential neighborhood located east of Lindsay Street and west of the Scugog River. It's rectangular in shape and has frontage on a road that is assumed and maintained year-round. The property contains a single detached dwelling constructed in 1890, as well as a detached garage, and the detached garage is to be demolished. The proposal is to sever the property to create one new residential lot to contain a future single detached dwelling, and the consent application and the minor variance application have been processed together and are being brought today to the committee concurrently. Relief through the minor variance process is required from section 7.2b of the zoning bylaw, which requires a minimum lot frontage of 12 meters. The proposed lot frontage of the severed lot is 10.3 meters. Relief is also required from section 5.12J6, which requires a minimum setback between a driveway and a side lot line of 0.6 meters. The proposed setback between the driveway on the retained lot and the interior side lot line is 0.5 meters. The purpose of the driveway setback provision is to ensure there is adequate space between a driveway and a neighboring property. The driveway on the retained lot is to be 3 meters wide, which is compliant with the zoning bylaw. And the 10 centimeter reduction in the side yard setback is not anticipated to result in any issues with parking or accessing vehicles or driveway maintenance and snow removal. Previously, when looking to provincial policies for consent matters, we were looking at the Provincial Policy Statement 2020 and the Growth Plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe 2019. However, as of October 20th, 2024, the Provincial Planning Statement 2024 has replaced the PPS 2020 and the Growth Plan. Under the PPS 2024, Lindsay is classified as a settlement area, and the PPS states that settlement areas shall be the focus of growth and development, and that planning authorities shall support general intensification and redevelopment to support the achievement of complete communities, including by planning for a range and mix of housing options. The proposal is consistent with the applicable policies of the PPS 2024. The province of Ontario has launched the More Homes, More Choice Ontario's Housing Supply Action Plan, the goal of which is to build 1.5 million homes by 2031 to address the housing supply crisis in Ontario and to encourage the development of housing needs that meet the needs and budget of all Ontarians. As per the city's municipal housing pledge, the province has established a housing target in the city of Kawartha Lakes of 6,500 new housing units by 2031, and the city has committed to work to achieve this target. Through the severance of the property and the construction of a new dwelling, this proposal can contribute to meeting the city's housing target. Additionally, as per the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan, one of the city's goals is to increase affordable and attainable housing by encouraging intensification and providing the full continuum of housing types, including ownership and purpose-built rentals. Looking to the Lindsay secondary plan, the subject property is designated residential, and this designation permits a variety of dwelling types. It would be considered low density, where the minimum density is 15 dwelling units per net hectare, and the maximum is 25 units per net hectare. And the resulting density here is approximately 20 units per hectare. Here we have a couple photos of the property, including the dwelling on the retained lot and then the proposed severed lot being to the left of the house. The intent of the minimum lot frontage requirement is to ensure lots are large enough to accommodate development while ensuring there is space for amenity uses as well as infiltration. The minimum lot frontage also ensures that properties are wide enough to support a building envelope that could comply with the minimum side yard setbacks. The minimum lot area within the R2 zone is 360 meters, and the severed lot is to exceed this minimum. The building envelope shown on the sketch demonstrates that the proposed lot is large enough to accommodate development that complies with provisions of the zoning bylaw. Stormwater infiltration issues are not anticipated as both the severed and retained lots comply with the maximum lot coverage provision. And the proposed severed lot is to have sufficient amenity space in the rear yard. On the slide here, we have the proposed severed lot in the center outlined in orange, and then the surrounding area contains lots with varying amounts of frontage. So the proposal is in keeping with the existing lot fabric. Looking now at comments received, no comments of concern were raised by any of the circulated agencies. The consent application was originally circulated in February 2024, and as a result of the circulation, several comments were received from neighboring property owners as well as a petition. And those comments and the petition can be found in the report appendix. The consent was recirculated in October 2024 with the companion minor variance, and the comments received from a neighboring property owner via phone call have also been summarized in the appendix. To summarize the comments, concerns include the proposed new dwelling being a rental property, impacts to community safety, traffic, and parking, impacts to mature trees, privacy and light issues, impacts during the construction process, increasing the density of the population, impacts to infrastructure, environmental impacts, the proposal not being in keeping with the character of the area, impacts to property value, noise, and the size of the proposed lot. So to speak to some of those concerns, I can provide the zoning bylaw does not control tenure, and renting a dwelling to tenants is permitted. The property complies with the minimum parking requirement, and the proposed entrance for the severed lot will have to be approved by the Public Works Roads Division as per proposed condition of provisional consent number 3. The subject property is not heavily treed. The proposed dwelling is in keeping with the required setbacks from the side and rear yard, so privacy issues are not anticipated. The resulting density complies with what is established by the secondary plan. Both the severed and retained lots comply with the minimum lot area of the R2 zone. It's the frontage of the severed lot that is less than required by 1.7 meters. In terms of character, the proposal is a single detached dwelling, which is in keeping with the surrounding housing typology. The dwelling on the retained lot is on the city's heritage registry, and that dwelling is to remain on the property. The city's heritage planner has confirmed that there are no restrictions on the severance of the property due to this heritage status, and that there are no policies in place to establish requirements for what the new dwelling should look like. Based on the contents of the report, staff respectfully recommends approval of the minor variance as the application meets the test set out in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, and the consent as the application represents good planning and is in accordance with Section 53(1) of the Planning Act, subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Committee, questions of our planner? Mr. Finn.
Thank you. Through the chair, a couple of questions. Do you happen to know the frontage of the two lots to the east of the proposed severed lot?
If you'll just give me a moment, I can measure them. Through the chair, based on an approximate measurement that I can get from our mapping, directly east about 15 meters, directly east of the next lot about 12 meters.
So both comply then with the zoning bylaw?
Through the chair, based on the measurement that I can get, it appears to, yes.
Okay. And then secondly, you'd indicated that the parking was okay. From the sketch at Appendix C, it looks like there's only parking for one vehicle?
Through the chair, the proposal is also for an attached garage, which would accommodate another parking spot.
Oh, okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finn. Any other questions, committee? Ms. Archer.
Through, please. Would you please refresh my memory what the single detached dwelling, what's the definition of that?
So this would be, sorry, through the chair, just one dwelling. So it's not a townhouse or a row house or a duplex, which would have two units, one on top of the other, that could be separately owned. Same with a semi-detached, where there would be two dwellings attached that could also be separately owned. But I can read the definition from the zoning bylaw if you'd like.
That's fine, thank you. But so there's no limitations on how many people can actually live in this dwelling?
Through the chair, as we know, ARUs are permitted under the zoning bylaw. As far as I'm aware, that's not the proposal today, but that is something that's permitted. But I will defer to the plans examiner for any building code restrictions on number of people.
Mr. McKinnon.
Through you, your chair. With the residential unit, it's based on the amount of bedrooms in the house. 2 people per sleeping room.
Committee, any other questions? Okay. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to...
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I had a question.
Councillor Yeo, you go ahead.
Yeah, and through you, I noticed that the setback on the side yard, and forgive me because I don't build in Lindsay, but it in the report says it's a 2-story house, and the setback is 1.26 meters. So typically in the areas north of Lindsay and around Lindsay, the setback is greater if it's 2-story. But does this fit the zoning? I guess I imagine it does. You would have noticed it if it didn't. But just from my own curiosity.
Ms. Evans?
Thank you. Through the chair. So that's correct that some zoning bylaws do have a larger interior side yard setback requirement when you do a 2nd story. In the case of Lindsay, the zoning bylaw doesn't contain that extra requirement. So the interior side yard setback minimum is 1.25 meters, regardless of 1 versus 2 stories.
Thank you. Councillor
so
Yo,
much.
anything further? Is the applicant here and wish to speak to it? Sir, there's a red button right there, or a button, and if you push it, you're good, you're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. My name is Roger Miller from Miller Planning Services. I attend here today on behalf of the applicant and the owner of the property at 25 Melbourne Street East. And briefly, Mr. Chairman, members of committee, we have a few comments that we wanted to share. We can advise this committee that we have reviewed the staff report in full and listened to the presentation of the planner today. We can also advise the committee that we agree with the staff recommendations and the revision to the recommendation as noted earlier today in this meeting. We wanted to highlight that we agree with the staff report and their assessment that the application for the minor variance meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And furthermore, Mr. Chairman, we wanted to also reaffirm our opinion that, as the staff report sets out, that these applications address provincial policy requirements of the PPS, also the Ontario Housing Supply Action Plan, and the policies of your own official plan. Lastly, in response to some of the comments received from the public, we wish to affirm that our client intends to build a single-family dwelling on the severed lot and restore the existing dwelling on the retained lot. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm not sure if the committee would like me to respond to any of the specific comments raised by the public shown in the staff report, but I'm available to do so if you wish. One last point, Mr. Chairman, if there are any public comments, I assume I have the opportunity to come back and address any comments that may be raised by the public. Thank you.
That is correct. If you just wait there for a moment, Mr. Miller. Committee, questions of Mr. Miller? Yes, Mr. Finn.
Sir, we've heard from the planner that the severed lot will be in terms of its width, the smallest lot on this block, smaller than two properties to the east, which appears to be a severed lot as well. Are you satisfied that it's in keeping with the neighborhood in light of that?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, yes, I am satisfied that it's in keeping with the neighborhood. It's a compatible lot size. Compatible does not need to be exactly same as other lots in the neighborhood, but it needs to be compatible with.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Miller? I think what we'll do, Mr. Miller, you'd mentioned about commenting on the suggestions from the public. Maybe we'll wait and see if there are any further comments, and yes, you will have an opportunity afterwards to make final comments. Okay. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of the application? In support of the application? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition, yes. If you'd like to come to the podium and...
Hello, my name is Stacy Meenan. I'm a proud resident of Lindsay for 20 years. I would like to thank the chair and the committee for hearing the opposition on the matter of 25 Melbourne East. As you may be well aware, a petition was signed by over 100 residents. It was presented by Charlie McDonald several months ago. Many of the reasons the community opposition was highlighted, many of the committee's opposition was highlighted on that, but for the sake of time, I will only address a few today. The landlord owner of the property has been, to say the least, an absentee landlord for years. The property, a heritage site, being one of the very first homes in the area, has been badly neglected, from broken windows, exterior damage, and unlawful tenants that have plagued our neighborhood with police calls and thefts. When personally speaking with the owner at the beginning of his request for the property severance, with his only intention to rent, he expressed He lives in Oshawa, and it's not his problem. He just wants to rent. The proposed property fronts a right-of-way that is used several times a day, and a rental building will cause more unneeded congestion in the community. This is also a daily school bus route. These are just a few opposing reasons. Many of the seniors that are distraught over this building coming into their lifelong community are unable to attend and are not tech savvy enough to use Zoom. Others were unable to attend because of their work commitments and the meeting time of 1 p.m. We hope the petition will speak for itself. It is not a few people, but many that oppose the severance to build another residence on this property. I thank you for your time today, and I hope the voices of 100+ of long-term residents in our area will not go unheard. Thank you. Sorry, nervous.
Thank you for your comments, and I appreciate you coming today. Committee, are there any questions for Stacy? Yes, Ms. Archer.
Through you, please. I may have misheard, but did I hear you say something about a right-of-way?
Yes, right across from this property, if you look where the driveway is, just see where the white car is there. It's just right across, there's a right-of-way that is used daily, and we're supposed to keep constantly open. And this is also a bus route for all the elementary schools and high schools that come down Melbourne Street East.
This property does not butt up onto the right-of-way. It's across the street?
It doesn't, it's almost directly across.
Across
yes.
the street. Thank you.
Committee, any further questions? Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition to the application? And online?
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, Mr. Miller, would you like to, you've heard the comments, would you like to respond?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. I'm not quite sure where to begin. I was hoping to contain my remarks to planning matters, but it seems as though some of the matters go beyond planning as it relates to the comments received from the public. Let's start with my client first, the owner of the property. He sits with me here today. He has been a builder of homes for probably over 35 years and enjoys a sterling reputation as a builder within the Durham community. He's also a landowner of multiple properties in the Kawartha Lakes area. He resides here part-time. As to the ownership of this particular piece of property, my client's only owned this piece of property for 2 years, and it's been tenanted by a relative of his. He's not aware of any unlawful activity in this building as a result of the occupancy of his relative, and he doesn't understand where those comments are coming from. And I don't want to get too far off the rails here, Mr. Chairman, but if I could characterize some of the comments that have been made, I think it would be his opinion that they're misrepresentations and factually untrue. He does not reside in Oshawa, he resides in Whitby. And he recalls a conversation with this particular member of the public quite differently than the one that's set out in the staff report. That often happens, but I've known my client for probably a decade, and if he tells me that, I tend to believe what he's telling me. In terms of the substantive matters, I think a lot of the comments that were raised by the public with respect to planning matters have been dealt with in the staff presentation. And if I have missed anything that is of concern to this committee, I would be happy to address those questions now for you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Miller. Committee, any further questions for Mr. Miller? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, committee, we have this application in front of us. What is your wishes? Mr. Erickson?
Through the chair, as part of recommendations in the second part on page 1,
should after the variance application, D, blah, blah, should that be as amended, be granted?
I believe it should.
Through the chair, yes.
And in conditions of approval for minor variance on page 1, number 1, after the report number, should it say as amended? In the third line.
I believe it should. Is that correct, Ms. Evans?
Through the chair, yeah. We can make those changes in the notice of decision.
And the same on page 2, under number 2, on line 2, the same after the report number should say as amended.
Once again, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Erickson, do you have a recommendation?
I recommend we approve as written, as amended.
As amended, do I have a seconder? Ms. Archer? Okay, any further questions or comments? Ms. Archer?
Just would like to say that I understand where all these people are coming from. There are concerns about the neighbors, but they're not planning problems. And I would assume they can take them up with bylaw if they have problems in that regard.
Your comments are appreciated. Yes, you're right. When we do see a number of people coming forward, we certainly have to be aware of that. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the application. Mr. Erickson?
In favor.
Ms. Archer? Mr. Finn?
Opposed?
And Councillor Yeo?
In favor.
Okay, the motion is carried. The application is approved. Thank you. Yes, I'm in
Chair, what about yourself?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Okay, our next application is file D20-2024-088, and this is 20 Lakeview Boulevard. And Mr. Shahid is going to make the presentation. Mr. Shahid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is situated on the shoreline of Lake Scugog with access from Lakeview Boulevard. The property currently contains a one-story single detached dwelling, a detached garage, and shed. There is previously a lakeside deck and sunroom attached to the dwelling, which was found to be removed during a physical site visit to the property. The proposal seeks to facilitate the construction of an addition onto the existing dwelling and a new lakeside deck. The proposed lakeside deck will replace the footprint of the previous sunroom and deck and remain within the same footprint. The existing mudroom will be removed in place of the proposed addition. The proposed lakeside deck, features both a covered and uncovered component. The proposed addition will provide a new kitchen space, mudroom, and porch for the property owners. The dwelling is located within the water setback, the existing dwelling. As a result, any addition or structure within the rear yard would be constructing within that water setback. The proposed deck does not extend any further from the dwelling than what was previously existing with the removed sunroom and deck. And the proposed addition seeks to expand towards the eastern side yard. However, due to the slight curved shape of the shoreline, this results in a closer edge of the shoreline to the proposed addition. But it must be noted that the addition is not extending the habitable space any further from the existing building footprint towards shoreline. With respect to comments received after the report, the Kawartha Conservation Authority commented that they have no concerns with the proposal and that the applicant has to reach out to them as a permit may be required. As a result, I've added a condition to reflect this comment, and no formal public comments were received at this time. In conclusion, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shahid. Committee, questions for our planner? Councillor Yo? Okay, no questions. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to speak to it?
Hello, through you, Mr. Chair. Vanessa Archer from TD Consulting on behalf of the owners and as the applicant on the file. Thank you from the planner for your report. And really, I'm just here if there's any additional questions or concerns from the committee. I will note that we do know that we will have to get the building permit, obviously, and KRCA permit if required. So if there's anything additionally.
Thank you, Ms. Archer. Any questions, committee, for Ms. Archer? Thank you. Is there anyone here or online wishing to speak in support of the application? Is there anyone here or online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Committee, I'm looking for a recommendation. Ms. Archer? As amended. And Mr. Finn, a seconder. Any further questions or comments on the application? Okay. Ms. Archer? Mr. Finn? Mr. Erickson?
In favor.
Councillor Yo?
In favor.
Thank you. And I'm in favor, and that application is approved. Thank you. Moving right along here. Our next application is 131 Canaan Drive, and it's file D20-2024-090. And again, Mr. Shahid, would you take us through the application? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is situated on the shore of Pigeon Lake in a predominantly residential area with built form consisting of single detached dwellings and assorted accessory structures with varying proximities and locations in relation to the road and shoreline. The property currently contains a single detached dwelling with an attached additional residential unit, or commonly referred to as an ARU, a shed bar joint structure at the lakeside, a garbage shed, as well as a detached garage and storage container in the front yard. The proposal seeks to recognize both the existing shed bar structure and existing storage container. From this point forward, I'll just be referring to the shed bar joint structure as a bar just for simplicity. As detailed in condition number 2, the existing detached garage in the front yard will be removed. On this slide, I've included a picture of both the existing storage container and detached garage, as well as a picture taken from the road. With respect to the storage container, the owners have indicated that it was placed on the property in 2020. The storage container is not visible from the road, as along Kennedy Drive, particularly to the east of the subject property, the residential lots are effectively shielded from the roadway by a natural barrier of trees and hedges. The storage container itself complies with setback requirements, and overall front yard accessory structures in the form of detached garages and storage structures are commonly found along Kennedy Drive based on aerial imagery from 2023 and data from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. Moving on to the bar structure, this structure does not contain habitable space, nor is habitable space being introduced within the structure. As such, there's no concern with water hazards and dangers to habitable space. And just for comparative purposes, I want to mention that the rural zoning bylaw that was adopted by council, and although under appeal and not currently in effect, takes a different view on shoreline accessory structures. Shoreline structures, as defined by the rural zoning bylaw, includes any building or structure, and it gives examples of a dock, a hot tub, an outdoor sauna, a storage shed, and gazebos within any yard abutting a water body. The rural zoning bylaw actually excludes shoreline structures from being subject to the minimum water setback requirement, and as a result, the subject bar structure may have been considered a shoreline structure under the rural zoning bylaw and not subject to the minimum water setback. However, the rural zoning bylaw is under appeal, so its policies are not in effect. With respect to comments received after the writing of the report, the Kawartha Region Conservation Authority commented that they have no concern with the application and that the applicant requires a permit from them, and no formal public comments were received at this time. All in all, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shahid. I believe in the 4 or 5 years I've been here, this is the first time we've dealt with a bar. Committee, questions for our planner?
One question.
Yes, Mr. Finn.
Through you, Chair. Just, for a bit of interest's sake, the dwelling appears in Appendix C to be an L-shaped building. If one were to place the storage container within the L on the, I guess it's the west side, would that be considered still in the frontage area?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So it's actually the septic system that's located on that L area.
Okay.
No, but if it was situated there, that would be considered the side yard, but that's where the current septic system is located.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Committee, any further questions? Yes, Mr. Erickson.
Where it states that photographic evidence that the structure has been removed, is there an affidavit that goes along with the picture?
I'm going to turn that over to either Ms. Berry or Mr. Shahid.
Sure, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. No, it hasn't been customary or practice in the department to require that additional level of, let's say, support or evidence. We have taken the word, honor code, the word of the proponent that the photos haven't been doctored in any way. There would be ramifications if that was the case. These could be also evidence on, future inspection if there was cause for that. So this is information that applicants would know that they are required to be truthful and honest with the documents that they're providing in that photographic evidence.
Is that all right, Mr. Erickson? Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Berry. Any other questions for our planner? Okay. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to speak to it? Okay. Is there anybody here or online who wishes to support the application? Is there anybody here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition. Committee, looking for a recommendation. Mr.
In
Finn?
favor?
In favor? Mr. Erickson, seconder? Any further questions or comments? Okay. Mr. Finn? Mr. Erickson?
In favor.
Ms. Archer? Councillor Yeo?
In favor?
Great. And I'm in favor, so that application is approved. Our next application is file D20 2024-091, and it is 26 Goodman Road. And Ms. Evans, I see you're presenting this one. Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Thank you. The subject property is designated Hamlet Residential Area under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned Hamlet Residential HR Zone under the Township of Fenland zoning bylaw 1295. The property is located in the hamlet of Rosedale and is a waterfront lot. The dwelling on the property was constructed in 1992, and the property also has a boathouse and a detached garage. The proposal is to demolish the existing detached garage and construct a new detached garage. Relief is required from the following sections of the zoning bylaw, being section 10.2.1.3A, which requires a minimum front yard setback of 7.5 meters. The proposed setback is 3.2 meters. And section 3.1.3.2, which provides that the maximum height for an accessory structure is 5 meters. The proposed height is 6.3 meters. Here we have an elevation of the proposed garage as well as a photo of the existing garage that is to be removed. The property owners have sold their permanent residence and will be living here full time, and the extra furniture and items that can result from consolidating two houses has resulted in the need for increased storage space, which the new garage is to provide, as well as covered parking. Looking to the official plan, a single detached dwelling as well as accessory buildings are permitted within the hamlet settlement area designation. The existing detached garage is set back approximately 3 meters from the front lot line, so the proposed garage is an improvement over the current circumstance. The driveway that is used to access the neighboring property at 28 Goodman Road separates the proposed location of the garage from the traveled portion of the road. So in this photo, we have the neighbor's driveway in the center. Over to the left is the traveled portion of the road, and then over to the right is the location of the proposed garage, and as well as where the existing garage is today. So the distance between the traveled portion of the road and the location of the proposed garage is approximately 9 meters. So the garage is not anticipated to impact traffic flow, road maintenance, or sight lines. And there are also other properties in the area that have garages that appear to have reduced front yard setbacks, so the proposal is not out of place with the existing built form. The majority of the proposed garage is approximately 4.9 meters in height. However, there is a dormer on a portion of the garage that exceeds the maximum height. And the purpose of that dormer is so to give some additional height so a full stairwell can be constructed. So when moving larger items up the stairs to store up top, that's easier to do so. The garage complies with the minimum interior side yard setback, and there is mature vegetation along the side lot line to provide a visual buffer. Also, as seen in the photo on the left there, the proposed garage is to abut an existing detached garage on the neighboring property, so land use conflicts are not anticipated, as the proposed garage is not to abut a residential building. And as the dwelling on the subject property is 2 stories, as seen on the photo on the right, the height of the garage will not result in the dwelling becoming visually subordinate. So, as a result of comments that were received after the writing of the report, I've added 3 conditions that have been printed out and provided to the committee, as well as emailed to Councillor Yeo. So, upon the initial review of the minor variance, the supervisor of Part 8 sewage systems flagged an issue with the setback between the garage and the septic system. However, through working further with the applicant, it was determined that there is a solution that can be reached, and that will be further worked out at the building permit stage. All the setbacks that are proposed for the garage through this minor variance are to remain the same, and the supervisor has just requested a condition be placed to ensure compliance with all requirements for the septic system. So condition 3 has been included to ensure approval is obtained. Kawartha Region Conservation Authority has provided that a permit may be required from their office, and that may include the requirement for a karst assessment. So condition 4 has been included to ensure the applicant works with staff at KRCA to determine if a KRCA permit is required, and then to ensure that we receive confirmation as to whether it is required, and if it is, that it's issued before a building permit is issued. And another condition number 5, due to the proximity of the property to Highway 35, the Ministry of Transportation was circulated on the minor variance, but they have not responded at this time. So condition 5 rather, has been included to ensure that we receive confirmation from MTO as to whether they will require any approvals or permits, and that a building permit will not be issued until that confirmation is received. No other comments of concern were raised by any of the circulated agencies. Comments were received from Steve Hunt, owner of 10 Goodman Road, providing that he is in support of the requested minor variance and that the proposed garage would improve the streetscape and be a benefit to the surrounding community, and that the requested variances seem quite minor. No other comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report and the new conditions brought forward at the meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Committee, questions for Ms. Evans? Yes, Ms. Archer.
Through you, please, to Ms. Evans. With the respect to the Ministry of Transportation approval and or permit requirement, when they're circulated with these applications, are they given a timeline they have to respond by?
Through the chair, so we have been asked to use, it's a portal that we have to submit requests through to the MTO for them to respond to. And when I did submit that request, I gave the date of the meeting and also a date ahead of the meeting to kind of say that we are looking for comments before that. Haven't received anything so far, but I will be very diligent in responding or following up with them rather to get those comments as soon as possible.
Thank you. It's a shame that something like that could impede this going ahead when they don't respond when they're told to.
Yes, Mr. McKinnon.
Through you, your chair, if a permit is required from MTO, it is applicable law, and it would be a requirement to obtain that prior to a building permit being issued, if that helps clear any of that up.
No, that part I understand, but if we are telling them, they have to tell us if it is or if it isn't. So even if they don't require one and they haven't responded, we can't go ahead. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. We do need confirmation as to whether they will require any permits. Unfortunately, we are kind of at their mercy at this point, but I will follow up with them on a daily basis if I need to. I've been assigned a person, so I know who they are, so they will be hearing from me.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just
Yes,
for a moment. We're all kind of seeing the maybe little pinch points in this new process, and the ministry is attempting to streamline, as you know, many sort of agencies are. So we certainly understand that while they're working through the kinks of their new system, they have given our team the ability to connect with an actual person, which is already a step forward. And they are looking at ways to improve the efficiency. They certainly know that under a sister ministry, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and of course the Planning Act, that there is a statutory required period for planners to work within in terms of bringing information to your committee. So when it's appropriate and reasonable, conditions like the one that's been added by the planner in this case is a really I think great option and a safeguard that allows you to go ahead with decision making, but also respects the process that the province has in place now, and hopefully we see streamlined even further going forward.
Thank you, Ms. Berry, for that. Any further questions for our planner? Okay. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to speak to it? Once that red light comes on, you're golden.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Chris Lewis. I live at 26 Goodman Road. I'd like to thank everybody for your consideration today. I really don't have any comments other than to say I have already contacted the Kawartha Conservation. I submitted my request for a permit on Monday, and I only found out about the Ministry of Transportation today. I am probably 450 meters from Highway 35, as is the rest of Rosedale, so we'll see what they say. I was involved helping with raising money to pave the boat ramp underneath Highway 35, and I know how long that took. So I'm hoping that we can keep on them daily and see what they come up with as far as whether I need a permit or not. So I think I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's so far.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. We appreciate you being here today. Committee, any questions for Mr. Lewis? Ms. Archer.
Through you, please, to Mr. Lewis, the garage that's being anticipated, which way are the doors going to face?
To the east, so away from the cabin garage that's there now. Toward my laneway, yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Lewis? Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Appreciate it. Okay. Is there anyone else here or online wishing to speak in support of the application, Is there anyone here or online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition. Committee, I'm looking for a recommendation. Councillor Yeo? Councillor Yeo, and a seconder?
Move as printed.
Okay.
Move as printed.
Should it be as recommended, as amended? Yes, as amended, Councillor Yeo?
Yes, as amended.
Yes. A seconder, Ms. Archer? Okay, Councillor Yeo?
In favor?
Ms. Archer? Mr. Erickson?
In favor.
And Mr. Finn? In favor. Okay, your application is approved, sir. Thank you. I'm in favor as well. You'll remember 3.1.5 was deferred, so we'll move on to 3.1.6 on our agenda. And this is file D20-2024-093, and this is 263 Glenarm Road. And it is Ms. Evans again. Ms. Evans.
Thank you. The subject property is designated Hamlet Settlement Area under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned Highway Commercial C2 zone under the Township of Eldon zoning bylaw 94-14. The subject property is located in the hamlet of Argyle on the north side of Glenarm Road, and surrounding uses include residential, commercial, and agriculture. The property contains a single detached dwelling constructed in 1910, a detached garage, a tool shed, and a workshop. The proposal is to construct an addition onto the back of the existing dwelling. The previously existing back portion has been removed and is to be replaced with a new larger one-story addition, which will provide more living space. Relief is required from section 15.2.1.3b of the zoning bylaw, which requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 12 meters. The proposed setback is 1.5 meters. As per the provisions of the zoning bylaw, an addition to an existing non-complying building is permitted so long as the new addition complies with the applicable setbacks. The proposed addition does not comply with the minimum interior side yard setback, so a minor variance is required. The existing dwelling can be seen on the photo on the left, and the location of the proposed addition is on the right. The remaining portion of the existing dwelling has a 1.5 meter side yard setback, and the proposed addition is to have the same setback. The proposed interior side yard setback is adequate for lot drainage and the performance of any building maintenance on this side of the dwelling. The 1.5 meter setback will allow for access between front and rear yard, as will the proposed 32 meter setback on the western interior side lot line. As seen in the photo on the right, the building on the neighboring property to the east is approximately 13 meters from the shared lot line, and as such, land use conflicts and privacy issues are not anticipated. For comparative purposes, the surrounding residential lots are zoned Hamlet Residential, which requires a minimum interior side yard setback for a dwelling of 3 meters on one side and 1.2 meters on the other side, which this proposal exceeds. No comments of concern were raised by any of the circulated agencies, and no comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, Staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Evans. Committee, questions for Ms. Evans? Ms. Archer?
I just noticed that it's zoned commercial and it's only used as residential. There's no conflict there?
Through the chair, in this zone, a dwelling unit is a permitted use on its own, so there's no requirement that a residential use has to be accessory to a commercial use. It can be just residential.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Any other questions for Ms. Evans? Okay. Is the applicant here or online? Yes, sir. Okay. And your name, sir? We're glad to have you here today. Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? I think today's your easy day. No questions, sir. Okay. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in in support of the application? In support of the application? Or anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition. Okay, committee recommendation. Mr. Erickson?
As written.
Okay, and a seconder, Mr. Finn? Any further questions? Okay. Mr. Erickson?
In favor.
Mr. Finn?
In favor?
Ms. Archer? Councillor Yo?
In favor?
Thank you. All in favor? And I'm in favor. That application is approved, sir. Thank you for coming. Moving right along here, I think we just have 2 applications left to go. The next one is file D20-2024-094, and this is 204 Rustic Trail. Mr. Shahid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is situated on the shoreline of 4 Mile Lake in a neighborhood comprised of low-density residential uses in the form of single detached dwellings, as well as assorted accessory structures with varying distances from road and shoreline. The property currently contains a single detached dwelling, a boathouse, a cabin, also commonly referred to as a bunkie, a sauna, and a gazebo. The proposal seeks to facilitate the construction of a detached garage in the front yard. The proposed garage is 1 story in height and will allow for the parking of 3 vehicles and will also be used for storage. With respect to the deficient front yard setback, it must be noted that the proposed garage itself is permitted to be in the front yard given its waterfront nature. Although relief is required from the front yard setback, as the subject property is the last property along Rustic Trail at the dead end, concern is minimized considering no other lots rely on the road for access beyond the point of the subject property. Therefore, the deficient front yard setback does not interrupt neighboring properties with their use of the road. I've also included 2 nearby examples on the slides gathered from 2023 aerial imagery of properties that appear to have deficient front yard setbacks from an accessory structure. With respect to the number of structures, the proposed development is to be located in the front yard where no other accessory structures currently exist. The remaining existing accessory structures are located at the lakeside or the rear yard and or side yards with little to no visibility from the road. And lastly, both the proposed overall lot coverage at 9.9% and the accessory structure lot coverage at 5.5% remain compliant. With respect to comments received after the report, the Kawartha Conservation Authority commented they have no concerns with the application and that a permit will not be required, and no formal comments were received from the public at this time. To conclude, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shahid. Committee questions. Yes, Mr. Finn.
Just looking at Appendix C, the proposed garage, is there any particular reason why it's angled in that manner? It seems to me if it were more squared to the lot, then the setback would be greater.
Mr. Shahid?
Through you to the committee member, even if it was angled, it would still be non-compliant, but I'll defer that question to the applicant if they'd like to explain why they situated the garage in that manner.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Shahid? Okay. Is the applicant online?
Yes, I am. Hello?
Yes, hello, we hear you. And your name, sir?
Okay. My name is Rui Ferreira. Thank you for having me. Yeah, to the answer to the question is I wanted actually initially to put the garage in front of the septic tank, but due to the septic requirements, it has to be a certain distance. So the only place I could place it was basically that's the only place that's left on my lot to place it actually, and have the doors actually facing the south. That's the only place it'll fit.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Finn, any further question regarding that?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Sir, did you have anything else you'd like to say before we proceed here?
No, just me and my family have fallen in love with living up there. We like everyone. I actually spoke to all the neighbors before just to get their approval and make sure I wasn't stepping on anyone's toes. And the plan is to actually live there full time. I just, it's hard having all this stuff in the basement, and I really need a garage like everybody else. That's about it.
Okay, well, we appreciate you being with us today. Committee, nothing further for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else online wishing to speak in support of the application? Support of the application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition? Okay. Committee, recommendation? Ms. Archer? As printed. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Erickson? Ms. Archer? Mr. Erickson?
In favor.
Mr. Finn?
In favor?
Councillor Yo?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. Sir, your application is approved. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Last but not least, file number D20-2024-095, and it's 15 Remer Drive, and Ms. Evans is our last one. Ms. Evans, thank you.
Thank you. Before I begin, I will just bring to the attention of the committee that the circulation requirements under the Planning Act were not met quite to the letter for this one. So the requirement is to have the notice sign posted 10 days before the meeting, which would put it at Monday, October 14th. We sent the notification email out to let the applicant know that the sign was ready, but there was an issue with the email address, so the email did not reach the applicant. Once we did realize that, though, we emailed the applicant again, and the applicant came and picked up the sign right away and had it posted on Wednesday, October 16th. So as the deadline was a Monday, no weekend was missed where the sign should have been up, and the sign was up 8 days before the meeting. So I feel we have met the intent of the circulation requirements, and I'm comfortable moving this forward today, but again, I will leave the matter with committee to discuss.
Committee recommendation, do you have any concerns with what Ms. Evans has outlined?
No concerns.
Okay. Ms. Evans, we'll proceed with that. Thank you for bringing that information forward.
Thank you. The subject property is designated waterfront under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned rural residential type 3 zone under the Township of Dalton zoning bylaw 10-77. The property is a waterfront lot located on the northeastern shore of Young Lake. The area contains residential, commercial, agriculture, and community facility uses, with a residential use to the north and the Dalton Community Center and Library to the south. The property contains a single detached dwelling constructed in 2020, a shed, and a detached garage. The purpose of the application is to demolish the existing garage and construct a new, larger garage in the same location. The existing garage is approximately 20 square meters in size, and the new garage is to be approximately 80 square meters. Relief is needed from section 14.1B of the zoning bylaw, which provides that an accessory structure can only be erected in the side or rear yard. The proposed garage is to be located in the front yard. Here we have a couple photos of the existing garage, which is to be replaced. Looking to the official plan, low-density residential uses and buildings and structures accessory to residential uses are permitted within the waterfront designation. The proposal complies with all provisions of the zoning bylaw with the exception of the permitted location for an accessory structure. The proposed garage complies with minimum height as well as all applicable setbacks, and just to note, it does exceed the minimum front yard setback. The existing dwelling, as seen in the photo on the left, is larger than the proposed garage, ensuring residential use remains visually predominant. And as seen in the photo on the right, the area between the front lot line and the proposed garage is heavily vegetated, providing a visual buffer between the garage and the road. There's also still adequate front yard amenity space with the garage being located in the front yard. And several other properties in the area do have garages in the front yard, so the proposal is in keeping with the existing built form. For comparative purposes, the majority of the city's other rural zoning bylaws, as well as the new rural zoning bylaw, will not currently in effect, permit detached garages in the front yard when a property fronts on a navigable waterway. The Township of Dalton zoning bylaw is one of our zoning bylaws that does not have that provision. No comments of concern were raised by any of the circulated agencies, and no comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Evans. Committee, any questions for Ms. Evans? Okay. Is the applicant online?
Hi, yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are. We can hear you, sir. Your name is?
Hi, my name is Marco Di Tommaso. I'm the applicant on file on behalf of the owners, Rena and Andy Giovanoni. I'm just here for questions. I don't have any questions myself.
So you're pleased with the report and everything it says, so you have no further concerns whatsoever.
Sorry, if I can add, I did receive an email from the Board of Conservation that no permits are required and everything's good from their end. I just don't know if the planning department received that as well.
Ms. Evans?
Through the chair, yes, we did. So no comments of concern raised by any of the circulated agencies, including KRCA.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. We appreciate it. We'll have a decision here in just a moment for you. Is there anyone online?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in support of the application? Support of the application? Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition? Committee, recommendation? Mr. Finn?
As proposed.
As proposed. A seconder? Ms. Archer? Any further questions? Okay. Mr. Finn?
In favor.
Ms. Archer? Mr. Erickson?
In favor.
Councillor Yeo?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. Sir, your application is approved.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. We have no deferred applications or consents. Other business. Ms. Berry, from your staff, anything further?
Nothing to report today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, great. Committee, any comments? Yes, Ms. Archer.
Kind of a housekeeping thing. I wonder what that deferral that we had, we didn't take a vote on it, like to a motion to defer it. Should that have been done?
Was that not part of the agenda? So what I'm thinking is when we approve the agenda, we approve the deferral. If that needs to be corrected, we're good, Ms. Berry? Great. Yes.
One more thing. Mr. Erickson brought it up when I was on this one other thing. One of the people that reports all the time is a niece of my husband's, and he wondered if I should be recusing myself from voting. I never thought of it before, but it's not pecuniary interest, so.
I wouldn't think so. You might want to talk to Ms. Berry afterwards about just to confirm that, but I wouldn't think so. But thanks for bringing that up. Yes, Mr. Erickson.
When Miss Archer was up at the microphone, I asked Member Archer after if they were related, and she said niece. And I just wondered, should the public be made aware that there is a family relationship between a committee member and whomever? Just to be on the safe side.
Ms. Berry, did you want to comment now, or did you want to talk to Ms. Archer afterwards?
Perhaps just a flag for future reference for all the members, that when it comes to determining a conflict of interest, in particular of pecuniary nature, it is incumbent on the member to satisfy themselves that they have none, and that is satisfactory. So certainly in this case, as the member has pointed out, there is none, and she is satisfied that there is no conflicts.
Thank you for that. No, when we were on council, that was the exact answer. It was more or less up to the member to make that determination. So, anything further for today, Mr. Erickson?
As in the last application, where it says, additionally, the rural zoning bylaw, while not currently in effect, also permits a detached garage in the front yard. Can the proposed rural zoning bylaw, even though not in effect, be relied upon as supporting, being part of a supporting argument?
Okay, Ms. Berry or Ms. Evans?
Through the chair, I think that's what I kind of mean when I say for comparative purposes. I'm just providing a little bit of context, while recognizing in the report that it is not in effect, the same way as I'm saying other zoning bylaws allow for it. They don't apply to this particular property, but for comparative purposes with the rest of the city. Just making a point.
One would wonder, I don't know if I'm accurate here in saying that once this new rural zoning bylaw comes in, I have to wonder how it's going to affect all our garage applications in the front yard, which, of course, I assume will no longer be necessary. I'm looking at Ms. Berry.
Mr. Chair, thanks. Yeah, it's certainly what we're not just hoping for, but what we have designed the rural zoning bylaw to achieve by looking at sort of the frequency and the nature of variances over a number of years, and seeing where there were opportunities to address those exact points in the rural zoning bylaw was one of the things I think that we've achieved. So I would not quite go as far as to say we'll see a massive downtick in applications, because of course we'll still have to look at not just their siting in the yard, but the coverage, the height, the setbacks, this sort of thing. But I certainly anticipate some reduction with respect to garages for sure.
Thank you for that. Anything further for today? Okay, I see our next meeting is Thursday, November 28th, Do we have one in early December as well?
Mr. Chair, not this year. We took a look at the calendar at the end of last year when preparing, together with Charlotte and the team, preparing this year's calendar. We have in the past had a very early December meeting, mostly because the way that the days fell in the week, the beginning of December, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, whatever it was, actually was on the Thursday that began as the last week of November. So we were able to meet the statutory 20-day appeal period prior to the municipal shutdown at the end of December. That's the piece that we always have to be cautious of going forward, is that we don't impede the ability not only of the public to achieve their appeal rights should they choose to, but also for staff to be able to administer the paperwork that leading up to and post receipt of an appeal, that also be able to be conducted within the timeframes that the tribunal requires. So all that said, no, we will not be having a meeting in December this year. Thanks.
So that was a no. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, just want to thank everybody for your time. Staff, once again, you've done a great job. Our reports are so well presented, and I think, it's testament to how much work you put in getting ready and so on, and we appreciate it. And to our committee members too, I remember it's a volunteer position, and thanks for your time. Councillor Yeo, I know you're a busy man. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Okay, so could I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Archer, Mr. Finn, all in favor? Great.
All in favor.
Now we can all go golfing on a nice afternoon or something. Thank you, everyone.